Right now, I'm going to show you how to do some ink and watercolor landscape drawings. I'm out here at the coast. There's some really cool evergreen trees, really fun to draw. I'm using a fountain pen with permanent ink. This is not the ink that usually comes in fountain pens. It's permanent, and I'm using an adapter. This is the Sailor Fude Demonin. It is an amazing fountain pen for landscape drawing, and if you put the right ink in it, you can put your watercolor right over the top. It is so fun for drawing trees like this. It has got to be one of the most fun drawing tools I have used, and you can get really fine lines, as you can see, and you can get thick lines. So you can get those darks really quickly, which is one of the things that I enjoy most in landscape drawing or drawing trees. But look, I'm putting in these fine lines as well. Those fine lines in the background for the further away trees in the landscape. That will allow me to come back. Whoa, wait, there was a tick. Sometimes when you are doing sketching in the field, and those kind of things happen. It's part of nature. So I'm jumping back in with the thick part, putting in some darks, putting in the silhouettes, because a lot of times these evergreen trees are basically just silhouettes, and they can be really fun to draw. This pen just feels really great too on the paper, and sometimes it makes a little bit of a scratching noise, which I kind of enjoy. It might not be the greatest to use on really textured watercolor paper. You can see here that I'm going back over my previously sketched in area and adding in more darks, darker darks, and adjusting some of these shapes. Pretty soon I will be ready for watercolor, especially for the more hazy elements. As you can see, it's a foggy day, so that makes the sky gray, and I'm going to put that in with watercolor because watercolor really is the tool for doing those kind of subtle colors. You can see I'm letting it dry here. That first wash needs a little bit of time to dry before I can come back in. Then I came in with my second wash, and unfortunately the camera was not pointing right at it. So I did all of that color, and now I'm going to come back and just do some more fun ink drawings of these trees in this landscape. Sometimes while your watercolor is drawing, you can have a little side drawing that you do. And I'm just trying to practice because I'm trying to get better at drawing these tree shapes, leaving the sky holes. Each different type of tree has certain characteristics about it that you might be able to simplify in your drawing, and it takes time to learn these patterns of how to simplify different tree types. But you can see there the tree in the background right there in the middle is the one that I am currently drawing. And I'm going to do it again one more time. You can see the tree there right in the middle, and you can see my attempt at drawing it there as well. You can see I'm kind of going around the outline, but sometimes it's better to work from the inside out when you're drawing trees. It takes practice. It's also hard to get the sky holes, so those little openings in the canopy where you can see the sky coming through are a critical piece of trees. And when you're drawing trees and landscapes in ink and watercolor, it makes it harder because you're using a transparent media, and you can't as easily get these sky holes added afterwards, because with watercolor and ink you are working from light to dark, and you can't add light shapes on top of dark shapes. I'd say it's coming out all right. That looks a little bit like the tree that I'm trying to draw. Just adding in a few more details here. Sometimes you can overdo it with the Fude Demonin, and it will start to rub the paper raw a little bit. This is a great time to point out the concept of over-patterning. So the human brain loves to see patterns, and we often in our drawings will make things too regular and too patterned, especially things that in nature might be a little bit more random. So be careful when you're drawing the tips of conifer boughs or drawing other aspects of the landscape that seem like they have a repeating pattern. You might be over patterning them, so beware. All right, I've done another one there, and now I'm going to draw this little tree. It's a little bit more scraggly. I think it's actually the same species, a Douglas fir, right there in the middle of the field of view of this landscape, sort of near that telephone pole. So this one's a little bit different. It's more scraggly, but also a place where you could easily over pattern and end up drawing what you think a tree looks like instead of drawing what you actually see. You can see the weather is changing quite a bit here, but I am going to come in with watercolor. When you're using the Sailor Fude Demonin for ink underneath watercolor in a landscape drawing or a tree drawing, you need to let that ink dry for a little bit. So even though it is technically waterproof, if you go over it with the watercolor before it's fully dry, you will get some bleeding, and it will be more like a wet on wet. So you can see I'm going in here quickly. And even though this is an experiment for me to see if this is a workable technique, to see if how this will look. So I'm combining watercolor and ink in this landscape and tree drawing and practicing several different techniques at the same time. You can see I have multiple drawings going at the same time, and that is a strategy that I like to do because it allows for you to experiment. So learning favors the bold. Try new things in your nature journal. Ink and watercolor combined can be really fun for landscape drawing and nature journaling and for drawing trees. So go out there and give it a try yourself. Check down below for links to all the products I used.